Okinawa was captured, there was no way Japan could win the war. Some said, we can't forget the kamikaze squadrons. With so many pilots dying, how can it be acceptable just to let our largest ship do nothing? Honor, the Navy made the decision to sacrifice the Yamato.
The officer on the overnight shift told us that he didn't know if we'd come back, and that we weren't allowed to talk about the plan of attack with anyone on land. We were told to sort everything out, pay all our debts, and take care of things before we left.
My son had been born on March 12th. I only got to see him for one night. As I left, I believed I wouldn't return. After my wife saw me off at the door, I walked around the house, looking at it one last time where my wife couldn't see me, and bade it farewell before returning to the ship.
Late in the afternoon, the crew of the Yamato assembled on deck.
The sun hadn't quite set yet. The entire crew gathered, and we were instructed to face the direction of the Imperial Palace.
We said our final farewells and shook hands with our brothers in arms. Then we sang the military anthem, the song we always sang. No matter how strong our fears, no matter how numerous the enemy, it is then the Yamato spirit pours forth.
There were squalls in the China Sea the night the Yamato sailed. These lines of low clouds would make it harder for enemy aircraft to spot the ship. The battleship and its small task force hugged the coast as they proceeded south. Miles away, across the dark ocean, a screen of destroyers protected the Yamato from submarines. Nothing could protect her from an attack by air. Below deck, on what might be the last night of their lives, the crew was allowed to indulge.
The second officer ordered us to unlock the pantry where the groceries and the sake were kept. We were drunk. The officers were not so drunk, but we were drunk to the point of staggering.
We were given sake and beer, and we formed circles and drank together. But how could I possibly drink when I was ordered to?
In the hours before dawn, the Yamato maintained its course straight toward the 1,500 ship American fleet. As her officers prepared for death, the Yamato sailed on through the night.
For Japan, if we're losing, we will give it everything we've got until the very end. That's what characterizes the Yamato spirit.
The next morning, the first planes intercepted the Yamato while she was still 200 miles from the closest American warship. The ship's lumbering 18-inch guns attempted to fire on the approaching aircraft from 10 miles out, but the low clouds prevented accuracy. Once the first dive bombers penetrated the 10-mile screen, the Yamato's 100 anti-aircraft guns let loose. But almost all the planes made it into position, 20,000 feet directly over the ship. The first 500-pound bombs landed on the deck, and fires broke out.
The dive bombers would strike from high above and try to put bombs through the deck armor. Fighters would strafe the battleship to reduce the effectiveness of the Japanese anti-aircraft fire. The killer, though, would be the torpedoes.
It was the job of the airdrop torpedoes to penetrate the Yamato below the waterline, near the bow and stern, where her armor was the thinnest.
Like the torpedo pilots used to say, if you want holes in the deck, send the dive bombers. If you want them sunk, send us.
The aviators were told to torpedo her only on one side, flooding her on that side, leading the ship to capsize.
After a dozen torpedo hits, even the Yamato's 1,000 watertight compartments couldn't save her. The lower decks flooding fast, the battleship was doomed. A pair of the attacking planes photographed the destruction, while the rest of the 400 American aircraft turned home to rejoin their carriers. How could a huge ship with so many watertight compartments sink in less than an hour? What caused the great explosions caught in the final photos of the battle? By studying the wreckage, the researchers worked to reconstruct the Yamato's final moments. On the ocean floor, the hull of the ship sits in two huge pieces. The 3,000-ton gun turrets lie upside down in the silt. The jagged metal points to a sudden, violent death. It becomes clear that the wreck has been torn apart by the massive explosions. These were far more powerful than the blasts of torpedoes.
We have the picture that shows the Yamato exploding, but we never knew how it sank. Only once we reviewed the underwater video were we able to establish exactly how the ship went down. And this is an important discovery.
Flooded on one side by torpedo hits and bomb blasts below deck, the doomed ship listed to port until she became unstable. As she capsized, the gun turrets were ripped from their mountings by their own weight and plunged into the sea. In the powder magazines, tons of ammunition slammed together, causing at least 3 more powerful blasts. Perhaps the largest explosions ever to occur at sea. The ship was torn into 2 parts and came to rest 1,200 feet below. For the American Navy, the destruction of the world's most powerful warship had proven to be a methodical affair. A mere footnote in the battle for the Pacific.
The sinking of the Yamato was noted with satisfaction in the headquarters of Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, but the notice was brief. The Yamato was the only ship left that could cause us problems, and now she was down.
For the Japanese, the sinking spelled the end of the Imperial Navy.
When I finally saw the actual Yamato sitting on the bottom of the sea, words cannot describe my feelings. When a ship sinks like this, it becomes a cemetery, a sacred cemetery. And so now when I think of the Yamato, I think of it as a graveyard for the men of the sea.
When we are in a big debris field like that, you know, sometimes a little detail can change a lot. Very often the shoes make more emotion than any other thing. It's easy to imagine, you know, somebody in the shoes.
A picture frame, a bugle, and a porcelain bowl are some of the remains of the Yamato's final day. These are recovered and preserved so that the ship will not be forgotten. The few sailors who made it off the sinking ship do not need reminders.
Each propeller blade was 5 meters long, so just one turn created a